Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition is a competitive strategy game for 1 to 4 players that also includes a 2-player cooperative mode. In the game, players will use cards to build engines which turn the surface of Mars into a habitable and profitable location for human settlement as they raise the temperature, create oceans, and increase the oxygen in the atmosphere. All this contributes to the player's terraforming rating, which relates to the production bonuses players will receive when taking the production action.
The game is based on the original board game Terraforming Mars by Jacob Fryxelius.
This version was created by Sydney Engelsten, Jacob Fryxelius, and Nick Little. It has artwork by Bill Bricker, Garrett Kaida, Nio Mendoza, Andrei Stef, Naomi Robinson, and Justine Nortje. It is published by Stronghold Games, and we are going to take a look at the Kickstarter version of the game. Join us as we take a look at how to play the game, and then we will talk about our feelings related to the game. To set up the game, place the game board in easy reach and view of all players. Place the 2 large, clear cubes on the lowest points of the oxygen and temperature tracks, respectively -30 degrees Celsius and 0% oxygen. Next, place the 5 phase tokens next to the board. Each player should take 1 player board, the player phase cards in their chosen color, and 2 random face-down corporation cards. There is also a player aid card for every player. The players will be selecting one of these corporation cards and returning the remaining card to the box. All other corporation cards may also be returned to the box. For your first game, it is recommended that you use the starting corporation cards with the star next to the card number instead of selecting the cards at random. Each player will also receive 8 project cards for your first game. You will find the 16 starting cards with the white star next to the card number and deal 4 of these to each player. Return any remaining starting cards in a discard pile. Then, you will deal 4 more cards to each of the players from the shuffled deck. In the advanced version of the game, before selecting a corporation, each player is allowed to discard any of these project cards and draw up to the number discarded in order to get better cards. After selecting your starting cards and corporations, place cubes on your player board according to any starting mega credits, that is MC, and any other bonuses from your corporation onto your board. Next, each player will place a cube in their chosen player color on the 5 space of the terraforming track. Make sure the 4 victory points and the copper, silver, and gold cubes are in easy reach of all players. I should note that copper indicates 1 unit of any type, silver is 5 units, and gold stands in for 10 units. Now you are ready to play. The game is played over several rounds. Each round is made up of 3 steps. In each step and phase, players play simultaneously. Not all phases will happen every round. Each round always starts with a planning step where players will determine which phases will occur that round. The planning step is the first step of each round. Players will secretly select a phase card from their hand and place it face down in front of them. Once every player has selected a phase card, the players will turn their phase cards face up and then proceed to flip over the phase token next to the central board. The name of the chosen rounds should now be face up for each player to see. The played card should remain face up in front of each player. Starting in the second round, when a player reveals their card, they will turn this card 90 degrees and pick up the previous round's phase card. This is because a player may not choose to play the same phase 2 rounds in a row. The second step of the round now occurs. Players will resolve phases. Phases are always resolved in the same order as indicated by the ascending numbers next to the phase. The phase order is development, construction, action, production, and research. Each player will resolve the main section of each phase chosen during the round. Any player who played the card in order to select a phase will also get to carry out the bonus action for that phase, as shown on the card. However, even if multiple players selected the same phase, that phase only occurs once per round. In addition to all these phases, players may choose at any time to discard a project card in hand for any immediate 3 MC. Let's take a look at each of these phases. The first phase is the development phase. During this phase, players may play 1 green project card if they are able. Players who played this phase card get a discount of 3 MC as their bonus. Don't forget to adjust any corresponding capability or production when you play these cards, as they usually have an ongoing effect. Green cards may be overlapped in order to see their production or capabilities. The next phase is the construction phase. During this phase, players may play 1 red or blue card paying the appropriate costs. The bonus for this phase is to either play one additional red or blue card or draw an additional card to hand. Here is a reminder that some cards will have an additional requirement as denoted by the small yellow check mark. This is also written in text on the card. It could be something as simple as having 4 science tags, or it could be an environmental requirement related to the board state, such as oxygen being at the yellow level. When you have the steel production bonus, you get to reduce cards with the building tag by 2 MCs for each steel production you have. Similarly, each titanium production reduces project cards with the space tag by 3 MC. Tags are these symbols found on the left side of cards, which will be referenced in both symbols and text when needed by other cards. Usually they are related to requirements for playing cards. Third phase is the action phase. This is an important phase for completing standard actions, similar to standard projects in the original game, and doing other actions which will aid you in the game. Each player may resolve any action abilities on each of their cards in play once. The players who played this card may also resolve an action one additional time as a bonus. Standard actions may be resolved as many times as the players choose to do so in this phase. Standard actions are spend 8 plants and gain a force victory point, while also raising the oxygen 1 step. Spend 20 MC to gain a force victory point and raise the oxygen 1 step. Spend 8 heat to raise the temperature 1 step. Spend 14 MC to raise the temperature 1 step. Spend 15 MC to flip an ocean tile. When a player flips an ocean tile, they immediately receive any reward shown on the back of the tile. There is a reminder of each of the standard actions at the bottom of the player boards. Whenever you do anything that changes a board state, don't forget to increase your terraform rating on the board too. Each individual action raises this rating. When a global parameter reaches its maximum, players may gain any benefits they would have received from oxygen, temperature, or ocean tiles, as long as they do these actions in the same phase and round as when they achieve the maximum. If there are subsequent rounds, these benefits are no longer conferred on the players. With flipping ocean tiles in particular, if the last ocean tile is flipped, any players who do this action in the same phase will receive the same benefit that the last flipped tile conferred. The other odd exception is that players may continue to raise oxygen in order to gain force victory points in future rounds. However, they will not gain any terraform ratings if the oxygen reached its maximum in a previous round. Importantly, every player is required to spend any heat or plants that would perform a standard action at the end of the action phase. You must carry these 2 types of standard actions out before proceeding. Once the action phase is complete, players may enter the production phase if it was chosen this round. During the production phase, players check their player boards, which should be in line with their green production cards and corporation cards, and then they will gain MC equal to their production plus their current terraforming rating. On your player board, the types of production are MC, cards, heat, and plants. Steel and titanium are considered capabilities rather than production for this phase. The final phase is the research phase. Each player will draw 2 cards, keep 1, and discard the other. You may have project cards or corporation cards that modify this draw, of course, so be aware of that possibility. The bonus for this round is that instead of drawing 2, you draw 5 cards and get to keep 2. If the project deck ever runs out for any reason, then shuffle the discard pile of project cards and create a new deck. As a reminder for all of the phases, you will only play the phases which are face up on the phase tokens each round. I just gave an overview of all of them so that you would know how they generally work. So we played the planning step, then the resolving of phases step, and next we'll do the end step for each round. During the end step, each player will discard down to 10 cards in hand. As normal, players will receive 3 MC for each card discarded. Flip all of the phase tracker tokens so that the closed door side without the phase name is up, and then prepare to start the next round with another planning phase. The game will end when all 3 of the following are true. First, all 9 ocean tiles have been flipped blue side up. Second, the temperature is at plus 8 degrees Celsius. And finally, the oxygen is at 14%. Once all 3 global parameters have been met, players will finish the current phase and then proceed to final scoring. Note that I said you finish the phase, not the round of play. Players will then score the following: 1 victory point per terraforming rating, victory points equal to the force victory point tokens in their personal supply, and victory points equal to any printed on the project cards in play. Cards in hand do not count. Watch for cards that have an asterisk which is a variable point indicator, and also look for cards that are negative victory points, as they are easy to miss. The highest victory point player wins the game. In the event of a tie, the tied player with the highest combined heat, MC, and plants is the winner. Don't forget that you can convert project cards in hand at any time to gain 3 MC. In the solo version of the game, you will play similarly, except that you will use a dummy player who will select phases in the first 4 rounds of play for 20 random turns. The last round, the solo player will select which phase order the dummy player takes. In this way, you will have played a 25-turn game. Your goal is to have all 3 global parameters finished, just like in the regular game. Failing to do so means you lose. The easy version of solo lets you gain either 2 oxygen or temperature steps at the end of each round of play. Regular allows you to gain just 1 step, and the advanced version means you don't get any help terraforming the planet. As I mentioned, there is also a 2-player cooperative version of the game. When setting up this version, players place 27 copper cubes and 3 unused player cubes of a distinct color off to the side of the main board. Play proceeds as normal, except that when a player reveals their phase cards, they will each take a cube from the supply. If they take a copper cube, they add it to their personal MC. If they take a colored cube, discard it to the box after trading 1 project card in hand for a partner's project card. In this way, you will play 15 rounds. This is the end of the game, and if all 3 terraforming parameters have been met and you have at least 80 victory points, you win the game. Otherwise, you have failed in your mission. Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition is more than just the spiritual successor to the original Terraforming Mars. It's the game that would have been made first if somehow it could have been. The game looks so much better than the original, and the quality of the cards and board is so much higher than the original. I had to go look up when the original game was published, and it was 2016, just 5 years ago. But it feels so much longer than that. So many things feel like they have changed in the board game world, and the fact that you can find a game as good as this on shelves at places like Target is one indication of this fact. Scythe came out the same year as the original game, and it was equally a game changer in how games were produced and what we expected of them in terms of quality and immersion in the game. The question for many people will be, do I need this game if I have the original? Or will I be getting rid of the original game in order to have this game? My answer is, I don't know what your game needs are, but I do know I am keeping both as they are different games. How can I say that? They both have cards, they both have a board, but they do different things. Let's talk about the OG first. I love this game, and not everyone does. The OG Terraforming Mars needs Prelude in order to be playable. It also benefits from drafting, as you see all players around you are playing. Additionally, I like adding Turmoil, which ends up making the OG game this weird balancing act of strategy, board game, drafting, and diplomatic tension. It's not really a fast game at that point, but that's what makes the game so good. Everything you do in the game matters to a certain extent and will play out in who wins. It also takes a huge amount of space and can feel overwhelming at first, but I believe that is entirely up to who teaches you and how they teach you to play. The original game is also a bit ugly. Next to it, this game is shiny and easy to pick up. For those who have played Race for the Galaxy and Wingspan in recent years, it is easy to see where this game came from. It streamlines a lot of things and makes the game somewhat more accessible. I think that comes with a giant caveat, though. The board space becomes unwieldy for a game that is supposed to be the simplified version. Upkeep can also be a bit demanding in terms of how you have built your engines up for creating stuff inside the game. The game lends itself to multiplayer because of the phases, but at the same time it will increase a certain amount of the randomness of card availability. With over 200 cards in the deck, the same things that I love about the original game disappear. Different paths to victory become far more luck and draw dependent rather than about creating a new future based on making a few clever turns of discarding and deciding to keep a select few cards. Now, you're almost completely forced to go digging for cards if you want to find the precious resources of cards you need in order to win or meet your objective. Is this game easier to teach? Yes. It is also easier to learn, although there are a few key differences between the OG game and this one, which should have been described better in the rulebook, as I believe many will be at least familiar with the original. If I'm wrong about that, great. Maybe this game is for the uninitiated who were previously scared off by the playtime or board presence of the original. I do think they need to clean up the rulebook a little bit, and not all cards or corporations are created equally. This will put some new players off the game. Overall, the artwork is fantastic too, and I'm a big fan. This game isn't for those just looking for a lighter version of the game. It still has a learning curve, and it will frustrate some people. I will play both, but given the chance, I want to play the original even if it means choosing the app version of the game. I have played every corporation solo and a few games beside that in this new one. I just like the original better. You may not. Either way, I think Stronghold did a fantastic job of creating something here which will have a staying power. Honestly, the dual-layered player boards of the Kickstarter version are a worthwhile upgrade. It's a shame that the Target version won't have those, as I think it is something people would appreciate about the game as they learn it. Ryan, what do you think about the game?
I really like Terraforming Mars and feel the same about Ares Expedition. You would think with it being a smaller version, it would feel smaller, but it still feels big. It plays just as big, figuratively and literally taking up a surprising amount of the table. Ares Expedition is a game that is immensely engaging as its predecessor. I find it hard not to want to play it again and again. I also have a hard time not immediately restarting a game. Why? Why? Is it serotonin? Is it gambler's fallacy? Is my copy cursed by the gods like a modern Sisyphus? Seriously, I'm addicted to this game and I literally cannot stop playing it. I had some pretty big issues with the rules discrepancies until I read the differences from Terraforming Mars addendum today. Leave my disappointment in the game to a failure of reading comprehension on my part. I do wish it was clearer in the main rulebook, since that's where I went to look up questions during games. I'm not certain clarity exists for some things within the core rules. I've only played the game with one opponent and solo so far, so I haven't had the full 4-player experience, which I feel may be rewarding with the different actions being taken turn by turn. I think the depth of play allowed just by the action selection is great. I'm a big fan of similar mechanics where players choose their actions and share the actions chosen. In Ares Expedition, it's fun to build a separate engine from production and force your opponents to take production actions, and you just reap the benefits as well. I've got more to say, but honestly, I need to keep it short if we're going to play tonight.
Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition by Sydney Engelsten, Jacob Fryxelius, and Nick Little may have a place in your collection if you're looking for a solid card game with the engine building mechanic. Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching, and consider subscribing and commenting so we can keep making the content you've enjoyed today. Thanks for watching. Happy gaming.